Hello there fellow humans and welcome to this video, and today I will be going through top 5 best tier 10 tanks in WoT Tanks Blitz, obviously again excluding the premiums and collectors. Oh, we start off the list with number 5, and that is the Foch 155. Now, you all probably know that I am a friend of mobility and a friend of well-rounded jack-of-all-trades tanks. That is also why the Foch 155 is the only tank destroyer on this list. And now, why is the 155 better than all the other tank destroyers? Well, the gun mobility is quite horrible. The gun arc, as you can see right here, is absolutely abysmal, and the gun depression isn't too good either. So why would this tank be better than, let's say, an E3 who has 8 degrees of gun depression? Now, it's quite simple. This tank is amazingly fast for a tank destroyer. See, I was up here right at the beginning of the battle, pretty much before the E5 even arrived. That is one of the great advantage of this vehicle. Also, it doesn't lack in the armor department at all. The armor is quite fantastic. And, of course, the main highlight of this vehicle is the 2-shot autoloader that carries a quite big punch. Not as big as, let's say, other tank destroyers at 210, but it still makes up for it with insane DPM and quite good penetration. So, that is the Foch 155. Number 5 on the list, because it is simply the best tank destroyer in the game, and I had to feature some kind of tank destroyer, so I figured I'll pick the one with the best mobility, with pretty much the best gun, and very good armor. However, it does lack gun depression and gun traverse. That is the very big downsides of this vehicle. Let's move on. So now we're here at number 4, and it is, of course, the WZ-113. Why is this tank on the list? It is quite simple. It has insane DPM, it has a great turret, it has solid mobility, the turn speed is more like a battleship, but it's not going to stop it at all. This vehicle is just great in a lot of things. It doesn't have gun depression, and it doesn't have turn speed. That is the only two things that hold this thing back, and hold it also back from being higher up the list. Now, this tank, as you can see right here, in a position like this, I'm pretty much invincible. The cupolas on the top of the turret are very small. They can't really be penetrated by anyone. I have outrageously high DPM for a heavy tank, so I can pretty much just fight off anyone. I also have very good alpha damage. This tank combines a lot of good factors of all the heavy tanks into one tank, and only lacks gun depression and turn speed. That's why the WZ-113 is number 4 on my list. So now we are at number 3, and that is the E50M. Now you might ask yourself, why did I pick this tank? Obviously, it is a very big tank, a very well-armored vehicle, and it can keep up with the Predator 65. So it has insane armor, has insane mobility for a tank of this tier. It has solid gun depression, it has good DPM, it has a really great gun. It is one of the most accurate guns at tier 10, and it also rams well. There is no downsides to this tank at all. It has everything that you would need for any tank to work out perfectly. That's why the E50M is number 3. Because out of all the medium tanks, this tank is pretty much almost a heavium. But it has medium mobility. It has a medium tank gun. It has great gun depression, but it has heavy tank ramming and heavy tank armor. What is there not to like about this tank? It is the best medium, and also pretty much the only German tank that I actually like, besides the grill. So, that's the E50M, number 3. So now we are here at number 2, and that is the IS-4. Now, why did I pick this tank? It's quite simple. It is a great tool to get rid of noobs, because the armor of this vehicle is just absolutely fantastic. You have 175mm of side armor. You have pretty good front armor. You can bounce Jaegeroos without a problem. You can do all of that. Obviously, your gun is a lot worse than, for example, that of a 113, but it makes up for it with the armor. Actually, I think it turns faster than 113 too, so that's not too bad. Obviously, the mobility is quite heavy. It's not the fastest of tanks. It's not the best, but it does have this amazing troll armor, and obviously it is Russian. who would I be to not include a Russian tank in my list? And it definitely has to be this one because it's just... it doesn't have gun depression. It doesn't have good DPM. The mobility is heavy tank-like and is a lot worse than, for example, the IS-7's mobility. But it makes up for it with side armor, with heat rounds, and with the absolute troll factor that Soviet tanks brings with them. Obviously, as I said, it's great against noobs. What's there not to like about the IS-4? That's why it is number 2 on my list of top 5 tanks. Before we get to the number 1 best tank in the entire game, let's go through a few honorable mentions. And the first one obviously has to be the T-62A. And this one should really be on the list if it wouldn't be for the E-50M. Because this tank has outrageous DPM, the mobility is absolutely insane. You can just turn this thing around in an instant, basically. It only has 320 alpha damage. It is not immune against dumbass rockets like that moron over there. And it doesn't really have a lot of hull armor, so that is kind of what stops it from getting onto the list. However, it does have 7 degrees of gun oppression. It has amazing turret armor. And it has a very, very accurate, high DPM Soviet gun. That is why 62A should be on the list, but it just didn't make it. The second honorable mention that should be on the list, but isn't, is the AMX-50B. Now this French heavy tank has a great 3-shot autoloader with 1200 clip damage and 3 seconds intra-clip reload, which means you can do 1200 damage in 6 seconds, which is quite great. The reload isn't too bad, it's around 20 seconds, so if you get yourself into a safe position to reload, you can deal a lot of damage with this vehicle. Just like the E-50M, this tank is absolutely amazing at ramming. It is even better than the E-50M at it, so that is a nice added bonus right there. And it is a heavy tank, but it pretty much has the mobility of a medium tank. However, what does put this tank down is the armor. It does have a very troll front plate, and the gun mantling compounds. Some lucky shots here and there, but overall the armor is quite bad. The side armor can be penned by HE, but pretty much anyone. And with the giant size, this tank is just held back by that a lot, and that is why it didn't make the list. Now we get to the last honorable mention of this video, and that is the FV215B. Now, you may ask yourselves, well, isn't this tank bad though? No, it is not. That IS-8 player is bad though. What this tank excels at is brawling. It is quite good. It has an amazing gun, 7.3 second reload with pretty much no aim time and insane accuracy. You can fire this tank on the move. You don't really need to aim a lot. The mobility is not too good. The forward speed around 35 kilometers an hour, so you're not going to get too much done with that. However, you have insane turn speed. So no Batchat, no Vickers Light is ever gonna outflank you, even if they tried. Now, already the one downside that you can already see on this tank that I'm demonstrating right here is that the turret is at the back. So that is a big downside, because for example, if I would peek around this rock right here, I would have to expose pretty much half of my tank before I could even try to point my gun at something. That is what holds this tank back. Also, what holds this tank back is the very weak lower plate armor, and you can side script really well in this vehicle because it has a turret at the back. And the front armor is quite solid, but then again, the lower plate is very weak. But if you know how to position this tank, if you know how to angle this tank, you can do really well with it, and you can make this gun sing. And that is why it is in the honorable mentions, but it didn't make the list, simply because the turret is at the back. It is very hard to play, and there is just tanks that are better than it. Also, it has these very lovely HE rounds to round out the entire package. So, all in all, it's a really great tank if you know what you're doing. But overall, there's a lot better tanks. And now, we will get to the one that is just better than all of them. And obviously, there is no doubt about this position at all for anyone that follows the channel. And if you don't, why not? It is obviously the T110E5, without a doubt. Now, what makes this vehicle special? Well, nothing actually. It's just good at everything. This is like the E-50M without ramming, but with better armor and a better gun. That's why this tank is at number 1. This tank can do absolutely anything. You put it in every situation and it will absolutely excel if you're a good player. You can use the turret armor, you can use the gun depression, you can use the good DPM, you can use the mobility to get into positions. You can pretty much do anything with this tank. Unless you're up against a lucky IS-7 that uses Stalin's power to snipe your cupola from 300 meters away. That's the only downside that it has. It is not Russian. That is the only obvious downside of this vehicle. So, what is there also about the E5 that is also amazing? It is the line. From the T-29 on, the line is very, very consistent. You know, you have... all the tanks have good turret armor, good gun depression, good mobility. So, once you get to this tank, once you grind your way up through Tier 7 to Tier 9, you will already know how to play this vehicle, and you will already know the playstyle. Unlike, for example, with an IS-4, where the KV-3 and the KV-4 are completely different vehicles, and only the ST-1 is sort of similar to the IS-4, even though the ST-1 is quite shit. So, it has the best overall capabilities of any tank, basically, and it has a great line. That is why the T-125 is a number 1 best tank in the entire game. There you go. That's the list. Thank you for watching. Bye.